Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Bootser. Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you're watching Uncensored. Well, today, for a Monday, we're going to kick it off with a real humdinger. You've been liking the profile, so we're going to bring you these profiles. And today I want to profile Ralph Guy Rocha. That's Perico from Norwalk. We all know him and love him. This is the guy who was wreaking terror and havoc on the streets when he was released. So he gets out of prison on the 1995 RICO case in which he was indicted in the United States of America versus Alex Pee Wee Aguirre et al. And United States of America versus Raymond Wedoshai Shryak et al. This was the first RICO case brought in the United States against the Mexican Mafia, particularly when Chuco Castro had flipped. And we ran a previous episode on Perico. It was when he was extorting a female. A lot of people commented on it. A lot of people liked the audio. Well, it's this extortion that got him to flip, right? Perico became an ATF informant. He became a law enforcement informant. He actually became an embedded cooperating witness, right? And he was an operative informant. That means he wore wires. He did controlled buys. He set people up. That's what an informant does, right? Just so you have a clear understanding of what an informant is, he provides information, and operative informants do controlled buys. They ID people. There's a whole slew of stuff they do, right? But here he is. He's just got released after serving a federal RICO case, right? He had beat a case in Lompoc where he stabbed an individual with Tommy Moreno. Actually beat that case in representing himself in propria persona. He represented himself in that case, and he won the case, and he walked. He's out, right? He's out. And here he is terrorizing the streets. Goes back for a second bite at this woman who he's extorting because her brother stole an automobile that had approximately 100 pounds of marijuana in the car, and it was Mexican Mafia marijuana. It was his weed, right? So he goes to the sister who owns a business and starts bleeding her. The sister gets scared after she already pays $30K. She's already paid $30K. Ralph wants more. So Perico gets arrested. We run that audio. We'll put a link to the video, the original video, with the extortion audio track on it. And we're going to run this video now. Stand by, folks. This is going to be an episodic thing because we have a ton of stuff on Perico, Operation Dirty Thirds, Operation La Jale, and we're going to start running it for you incrementally during the week. So without further ado, let's listen to Ralph Guy Rocha, Perico, the Carnal, Perico from Norwalk. Let's hear him debrief.
All right, it's 1/15/2010 at 10:41 hours. It's a Friday. I'm Francis Hardiman, LA County Sheriff's Department, here with Steve Case, Chris Brandon, John Saccone, and Chris Cervantes. Thanks, Chris. And you are, sir?
Ralph Guy Rocha.
What's your date of birth, Ralph?
2/11/67.
All right. So you were born 2/11/67. Where were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles, California, according to my birth certificate. I don't really remember much of my childhood right there. But kind of raised in up north in San Jose for a while, until we were probably about 9. Running around up there, not much. I don't really remember too much of that.
That's something new. I never knew he was a norteño. I never knew that he was up there in Northern California, and that's where he was raised as a child. Nobody ever knew that. I didn't know that. That's not common knowledge, folks. So, Perico was a norteño.
What do you want, like particulars of things I do remember there, or what?
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't really remember. Actually, I do remember a few things here and there, but not much. I remember my dad used to use. I remember that. He used to beat my mom, all that shit. I remember holding the thing for him one time when he slammed in the bathroom with him and a friend. And that's not much. I just remember one day he took off to work, I guess, and we left. My mom, I guess, I don't know how it all happened or what happened. I guess my mom prearranged it.
I empathize immediately for a child to experience domestic violence and then see substance abuse, in fact, facilitate his own father in injecting heroin. For a kid, that's terrible. So I empathize immediately with that. I don't know if any of you noticed, but on the left side of his neck, Ralph Rocha has a black hand tattoo, which is a symbol of the Mexican Mafia. We'll continue with the video.
My aunt and them came to pick us up. That's when we were living in San Jose. Picked us up and we moved to LA. Moved in with my grandma. We're living there. It was kind of weird, because we grew up kind of, up to that point, we grew up kind of sheltered. My mom was always involved in school, either a teacher or teacher's aide. She was always there with us. We did pretty well, even though my dad might have used in that. I remember we always had a nice home, nice things, do things.
What was your what age were you at when this?
9. I was 9 when we left.
Kind of reference your age a little bit so we can kind of know how you're progressing as you're getting older, so we can keep a time frame of it.
Yeah, I was about 9, but when we left, and like I said, it was different. We moved to the one-ways to Norwalk. Everything was a little more wild there, a little more loose, a lot more loose. And I see my aunts hitting my cousins with belts, and everybody just doing whatever the hell they wanted. None of the kids were allowed in the house all day. To oppose, when I was growing up, we had to be in the house, had to know where you were, what you were doing. We were go to bed at a certain time. Just all the rules totally that I was raised went upside down. It was out the window. Just do whatever you want. My mom still tried to keep us close, but that only happened for a minute. Didn't go on too long.
Let me stop this video right here. I just recognized something. They are in Walnut, California. I believe this is Walnut, California. I recognize the background, the two-tone background. I did many debriefing videos here, and I remember this is padded and soundproof so that people outside of the room can't hear what they're saying. And I believe this is the very last eye room down the little corridor where they have the eye rooms at. Eye room is an interview room, so for those who don't know.
Started messing around with my cousins, doing little stuff. I don't know, just, kid stuff. Going to the school, playing whatever, tag, having BB gun fights, rock fights, balloon fights, whatever, boys being boys. And as I started growing up, probably about 10, 11, been there 2 years, 3 years, I had actually the biggest family in Norwalk. So I never really had to get jumped in. It was kind of like I walked in, I got a real big family in Norwalk, in Cantaranas, in Artesia, Hawaiian Gardens, all that southeast area I'm related to somebody, a lot of people. I'm related to a lot of, Carnales, Boxer, Night Owl, Weddle Shy, Black Bob. I'm related to a lot of them, actually by blood, so.
Damn, I never knew that. Let's see how that unfolds. Ralph Rocha might be my family member.
Anyways, that's getting ahead. We're running around. As I started getting a little older, I started realizing that what was going on in the neighborhood, slinging dope, everybody, how they make money. Because up to that time, I remember the summers, our moms and my tias would just take us to the Norwalk Plunge, drop us off, and that was it. Tell us don't be home until like nighttime. We get dropped off there like 8 in the morning. So, we do whatever we had to do. Started stealing from the store, Thunderbird, drinking Thunderbird, doing ridiculous stuff, just dumb stuff like that. Boys, but it would be all of me and my cousins. Me, Frankie, Andy, Boy, my brother, sometimes my brother, Dalbert, just, a bunch of my cousins. And then homies that wanted to kind of hang out with us. That ended up marrying some of my cousins, the females. But then when I started realizing what was going on, everybody was slinging, everybody was doing dope. Everybody was slinging carga. Carga was real big back then. And the balloons, the powder. And there was a lady that used to run around all the time. Her name was Gloria Haas. She took a liking to me. And actually me and my cousin, Andy, Frankie, and my brother, we got real close with her. We started running her dope, actually. We started going to Soledad, Quentin. She was going into family visits, taking it in. I remember her daughter, Carol. She taught her daughter how to keister it and shit, whatever, because they'd go in for the trailer visits. Taking it to, after I got older, I realized she was taking it to Carnales. Her son ended up being on the list, so I ended up finding out later that she was pained that nothing would happen to him. Lefty, seems Lefty. So,
I remember Lefty. I remember Lefty had a deformed ear. I think it was his left ear, but he had a deformed ear. And I remember him in Soledad State Prison in 1980, 81. I think it was 81. I remember him. He had run into a few jams, and he's got quite the story to tell. I'm not going to tell his story right now, but anybody who knows Lefty knows what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But we're not going to get into that kind of content here. Let's hear what Perico has to say.
Anyways, I was doing that, running around, slinging, I was dropping off to everybody. That's basically what I was doing. Anybody and everybody who was slinging in Norwalk, Artesia, Hawaiian Gardens, Cantaranas, Jardín, Whittier, a big area. I was dropping off the dope to them. I was probably about 12. Yeah, about 12 or 13. We'd run around, I'd have everybody's stuff. I knew it. I used to make it, break it down. She used us because it was better. We wouldn't get put over. We're kids. We used to do that. She used to kick us down. We did it. It wasn't like a job or we were hired. She knew all my family, so we were all like family. It was just, back then I was a kid, 13, so whatever, $50, $100 was like $1,000 to me. So I'd run around, do that. I don't know.
I mean, just think of all the psychosocial strikes against Perico already. It's kind of like he's doomed for failure. Everything in his life has failed him. His father has failed him. He's witnessed domestic violence. He's seen substance abuse in his own home. And then he moves to another area, and a family friend begins utilizing him for distribution. So he's like doomed. He's already exposed to it. He's already participating in it. He likes the easy money. It's a sad set of circumstances for his childhood.
And I started slinging on my own. Started slinging Sherm. The money she'd give me, I'd go buy a bottle of Sherm and sling that. Most of the time I'd be with her, though. I wouldn't have a lot of free time. So I'd be with her, and when I wasn't with her, I'd sling. Or smoke it. It turned out, first I started slinging, then it turned out I just started smoking it. What the hell? She'd come pick me up a couple of times. I'd be all whacked out. And she'd tell me, I remember she used to tell me, like, what are you doing that shit for? Just, why don't you slam instead, You keep your senses about you with that shit. You're all done, whatever, right? That's what she told me, and I'm like, nah, I'm just going to do this. I don't want to do that. So time went on for a while, I remember we used to have coke parties. Well, she used to have them. Just like on TV with a big tea tray, like maybe 2-3 keys on there. Just there, people would come over, for whatever, days on end. From Friday to Friday or whatever, just party. Had a swimming pool and shit, and I'd be back and forth in and out because they were partying. That wasn't my bag. I wasn't doing coke. I wasn't doing heroin. I was still young, 13, 14, chasing the girls. Had Sherm, so I'd go back to the barrio, run around with girls, because I had the bottle. So everybody knew that. I had money. You know, kids my age, around that age, knew that. But I started, I guess, attracting the attention of all the older people, because I had the dope too. There'd be a lot of times where I'd get dope, or I'd keep balloons, and I'd give them to my cousins, you know, all the ones that were slamming and doing whatever. So that was kind of, you know, I was being embraced more by the older people.
You know what? This is really fascinating. I never knew all these details about Ralph. I've never, you know, I had a couple of encounters with him. I think I talked to him on the phone. Almost certain I talked to him on the phone on one occasion when I called during a junta. But that's my only personal interaction. Then I got a couple letters from him when he was in the feds. I think I've discussed that in previous episodes where he wanted to take over my crew on behalf of me and Daryl, but we'd have to trust him, and he would run Artesia Norwalk, right? And I just said, nah, that's not going to happen, bro. We're not interested. Thanks anyways. I think we're running it quite well on our own. And that business venture never started with us because he literally wanted to take over our crew. And I wasn't having none of it, right? But this other stuff about Ralph, I never heard about it. Never knew about it. And I would imagine that nobody's ever really heard this from him unless you're quite close to him or one of the people who were running around with him at the time. And I think that's the beauty of this video, is that you're seeing inside Ralph Rocha. You're not just, you know, he's a Mexican Mafia member. He flipped, he testified. You're seeing the person right here. This is the real person and his childhood experiences. And this is a method that they use to get people in the into the, they ease them into conversing about crime, right? Tell us about your past. Tell us about your upbringing. And by the time you're 15 minutes in, you're already lost the nervousness. You're not afraid of being in front of the camera anymore because you're just talking about your childhood, right? They're going to ease into the real stuff. We're going to get there. But this is the preliminary debrief, right? This is called the proper session.
The older guys, you know, 19, 20, 22, 24, you know, they'd be trying to tell me things like, don't do this, don't hang, you know, trying to school me. But still, I was still 13 years old, 14, so I do what the fuck I want. I listen, yeah, nod my head, yeah, a lot. But go smoke my shit. I remember during that time I got busted. I forgot what it was for. I went to a placement. Kaipo, Home for Boys. And she asked me if she wanted to escape me. You know, she's like, man, I guess I was making her money. You know, I don't know. Because by that time, we had been doing it probably for about maybe a year or so. And I don't know, you know, I don't know the reasoning why. I remember she liked me. She wanted to adopt me. My mom took offense to that. Because she even asked, I'm going to adopt you as my son, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think my mom would like it. Whatever, right? Because she wanted me with it all the time more. So, anyways, when I got arrested, went to that boys' home. I remember she went on a pass. She's like, hey, I'm going to escape you. She asked me, we talked about it. I told her I could walk off anytime. It was a boys' home. So I could walk off, go wherever I want to do whatever I want to do. And she goes, I'm going to take you. I'll take you to Mexico. And you go live up there. You know what I mean? Work up there. I'm like, nah. It's just like whatever. I don't know what it was. So let me just finish this. I'm already done. I'm here. And she's like, all right. So I remember during the time I was there at that placement, there was nobody. That was my first time ever really being busted. Well, I went through the juvenile hall scene, you know, all that, the little gang stuff. And it was all right, you know. There was a lot of guys from Norwalk there. A lot of people knew people, you know. Like I said, I grew up with a big family. I always run into somebody who knew somebody that knew my family or somehow or the other. So, you know, the network of people that I knew people that were in there. So I was always kind of like, I never really had a lot of problems, you know, as far as gangbanging, guys doing things. I knew older people, you know what I mean, because I always had the bag. So a lot of some kids that I did know.
You know what's surprising? Francis Hardiman isn't talking. I mean, Francis Hardiman knows how to listen. Right? He's an astute listener. He's methodical in his dissection process. Right? He's dissecting Ralph Rocha right now. In fact, he knew when to hit him. He knew that he had him on that extortion, and he's letting him talk. Right? Because usually you hear Francis Hardiman talking, right? And he's eliciting information out of people. But right now he's dissecting him. He's digesting everything he's saying, and thinking, well, I can't say what he's thinking. Nobody can say what another person is thinking. You cannot. But if it was me in that room, I'd be dissecting everything he was saying, and thinking about what my next line of questioning is going to be.
Or their older brother or their uncles, their moms even. I'd be 13, 14. I know him. Oh, yeah, I know your mom, Ruby, or I know that because I was dropping off to him. Or people would get to see me even though I didn't have a lot of conversation. They'd see me around, with Gloria, with the main connection running all around. So, I didn't have a lot of problem with a lot of people. So I kind of breezed through Los Padrinos, Central, Sillmore ended up at the placement, and there was it was all like regular cats there, like regular dudes. No homies. There was only two dudes, Richie from San Fe, and I remember Loco from Pico Nuevo. Those were the only two, like, cholos, I guess you could say, Everybody else was square. Everybody else was from good homes and, everything. So it was it was a trip because I clicked with them two dudes. We got along more than all the other regular guys. And one night, Richie or Loco, I don't know, one of them went around because it was open dorms, so you could go wherever, whenever you want. I went around stealing everybody's radio, trying to make a tattoo gun. So anyway, some dumb stuff happened. I never really got the whole story. Ended up back in Central. It was found out that I had no involvement in it, so the director brought me back, and I finished out my time there. On one of my home passes before that happened, I met some girl. What was her name? I forgot her name. She was a lot older though. So I was like 14, 15. I don't remember her name. I think she was like 25, 26. About that, we kicked it off. So we started hanging out. She was coming to the placement to see me, dropping me off bottles of Colt 45, out in the bush, Yesca, so we'd party. The home had an issue with it, though, because she was so old and I was so young, so they didn't want her picking me up, And they knew that, she was my girlfriend because they seen us kissing and stuff.
You would have thought that they would have called the police. I mean, that's literally child abuse, right? But this is way back 20 years ago. I guess it was acceptable to those facility administrators. But he said straight out that they didn't want her picking him up because they knew it was a romantic relationship, right? I want to go back to something he mentioned, Lefty from Norwalk, and I remember Gloria Haas. She used to bring controlled substances to her son in Norwalk. In Soledad when I was there. When we were in the MCU together, it's Management Control Unit, something like the Hole, right? We're in the Management Control Unit, and he would get the controlled substances and spread them around. He would send everybody some, right? And that's kind of the way he got along. He paid his way along. So when Ralph says that he was paying his way through so nothing would happen to her son, that's the actual truth. I remember this specifically because he was kind of a weakling, I remember him specifically, and maybe we'll get into that story later. I'm not sure that I really want to cover that kind of content, but I remember he used to bring heroin and give it to all the Sureños, and I happened to be one of the recipients.
So they put an end to that, But I got out soon after that. Got out, hooked up with her, and she had kids, 9, 10 years old already. So I always felt kind of weird, It's like, man, you got kids almost, my age. I never really told her that, but, something in the back of my head. But once I got out, Gloria got AU. I'm like, yeah, let me just chill out for a minute, because I'm on that probation or whatever. She's like, well, whatever. She, took me, bought clothes, did all that stuff, stood at home. See my primo, started running around again. Got Sherm right away. Whatever money, Gloria gave me some money. I went and bought a bottle. Actually, I bought a baby bottle, I remember. It was more than an ounce. So now I'm slinging ounces, So now I'm pushing ounces. So I got to be slinging the dippers no more. It makes it easier. doing that, and running around. I started making money quick, just with that bottle coming up. I remember Gloria would come around, but I'd be like, I was making my own money, you know what I mean? I'd hang out with her here and there, go there, eat with her, do this, but I started like backing off what she was doing, She was moving weight, she'd have weight with her. And we used to cut up, pounds, keys, back at a time, We'd make the balloons, make thousands of them. Get the key of heroin and the lactose, break it down, and she'd kick me down. I'd grab a couple of them just to give them to homeboys. A couple would be like 30, kick them down and stuff, and run around. So I hooked up with that girl. Then I remember I'm out slinging, and now I'm getting all the I got the bottle, so I'm hooking up with all kinds of different homegirls and stuff. And one homegirl, I remember we're messing around with some homegirls that night, and that was her name, Jenny, the older girl. So Jenny comes over, she wants to go do this, do that, and I remember I broke up with her. I'm like, man, I'm too young for you, I got, you want to settle down, tie me down. I'm like only 14, 15. I'm around there, my age was. And I remember she's like, wow, fuck me before you go, and this and that. And I'm like, man, this broad's weird, So I fucked her,
He wasn't no dummy. Yeah, but it sounds like he had a traumatic childhood. I mean, honestly, we're laughing at this, but if you look back at he's 14 years old. This woman's 25 years old. I mean, he has adults, corrupting him and influencing him. He was doomed from the start. I mean, they sculpted who Perico became.
I fucked her, and then I got some right here. And I fucked her, and that was it. She was begging, stay with me, this and that. I'm like, nah, that's the way I broke it off. Like, you're too old for me. You want things that, I don't. You want a home. You want me to move in with you. She wanted to give me a car. She had a good job. She was a doctor's assistant. She worked in the operating room. I guess, they say scalpel or whatever. She was the one that would hand you the scalpel. And for hernias, she worked for a hernia specialist, I remember.
That's a surgical tech or a scrub tech.
And so she had a decent job and everything, but just wasn't me, Like, nah, so I started running around, slinging dope, fucking up, stealing odd things here and there, whatever, running around with doing young vario stuff, running around, being with girls always used to be my thing, going with different broads from different, I used to know a lot of girls. I was the one that knew all the girls, I had all the girls from everywhere, going out, partying. I had the bottle. I knew the connection if I ever needed anything. If I needed anything, I'm talking about a limo, a motel to stay in, a car. Everything came easy, And if I wanted it, I'd get it. I don't remember if I got my violation or whatever. I don't remember how all that went. Then I remember I met my kid's mom. I met my kid's mom at a party. We went to a party, and my first wife, not Janelle, or my second wife, I met up with her, started being with her, and I got arrested right away, again. One night, I was taking her home. I was taking Diane home.
Yeah, this is a picture of Diana in a nightclub with him. This was his first wife. Unfortunately, she died of cancer. But this was his first love. And I remember specifically, they sent me a picture of I don't know if it was him I believe he may have sent the picture to me. I received it when I was in Pelican Bay. And I remember she was gorgeous. They were young, they were in love, but unfortunately she passed from cancer. To the best of my recollection.
I'm driving, and then I see some of my homeboys. They're walking. So I'm like, it was my sister's car, Gloria Haas. The connection that I used to know gave it to her. I remember the car, actually, she tried to give it to me. It was a Meteor or Metro, some weird name car. Almost like a Falcon, but it wasn't a Falcon, but it was something else. It was called a Metro or something. So anyways, I didn't want it. My sister ended up getting it. She kept it. And so anyways, that night, I'm taking Diane home. She lived like, maybe about a mile away. So I borrowed Mija's car. That's my sister's. Her name's Mary. We used to call her Mija though. So I use Mija's car. I drive her home. I see my homeboys. And boom, I drop her off right away. And I rush back to try and see catch up to my homeboys, Gibby and it was Gibby walking out. So and Richard. So I pull, hey, what's up? They're walking to his house. I'm like, I'll give you a ride.
So let's cut out there, because this is an extensive interview process. I'm talking, we have hours and hours of this, and it just doesn't make sense to run it all at one time. So I'm going to bring you the next segment soon. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a different type of profile from the man himself, right? He's telling you about his life himself. And I think it's so interesting and fascinating that I am even learning things about Ralph that I never knew before. And as he said, he's related to me. I don't know how yet, but I'm sure it's through he married or his cousins married one of my cousins, because I have a pretty big family too. So we're going to find that out as soon as we discover that. We're both going to be enlightened. All of us are going to be enlightened. Hope you enjoyed this episode, folks. Another one will be coming soon, probably at the end of the week. Don't know. It's up to my editor. My editor is the real boss of this channel. Recognize, folks, this channel don't run without the editor. It does not. Hype her up. Hype the videos. Hype, hype, hype. All right, folks. With that said, enjoy your day. Stay safe. Peace out.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Bootser.